Good morning, PRüF community. It is March 30th, and we have a community update for you today. So first of all, I'd like to bring you up to speed on some things we have been working on regarding Arweave integration. We have selected Arweave as our blockchain storage provider. They are a permanent storage provider, so it's pay once, store forever, and that's exactly what we expect that our users are going to want for their permanent or persistent storage needs. Obviously, there's IPFS is available. That'll be extremely low cost, but with IPFS, you can't guarantee persistence forever unless you're willing to run your own IPFS server and keep your data pinned. So anyway, most platforms out there are using IPFS. Most of the NFT digital art platforms are using IPFS, and that is kind of one of the I would almost call it a dirty little secret of in the NFT world. We released our Medium article. I guess it's been 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and ever since then, I don't know if it was just timing or if people picked up on that and it started getting around. But boy, oh boy, it's been a whirlwind of interesting things coming out in the NFT space about data persistence and the validity of the base validity of the NFT idea if the data itself is not permanent. I can definitely see that argument. I mean, that wasn't my intention to blow up the NFT space. But basically, if I'm going to spend thousands of dollars on a token that's linked to some digital art, I don't want that to be dependent on somebody paying a server bill. I'm talking about blockchain here, so I'm thinking, it's permanent. It's something that is like I can give to my grandkids. It's a collectible. It's designed to stick around for a while. Well, if that collectible just turns into a dead internet link, then sure, it may technically represent the rights to that item, and maybe I've got it stored on a thumb drive. But if that's the case, why does the token exist in the first place? Those are hard questions that have hard answers. PRüF has answers in a technical sense to those questions, and we are deploying those. We expect that our Arweave permanent storage integration will be in testing and public testing within a week or two. We are working on solving that problem. I know that we're probably not the only ones in the space that are working on that, but I haven't seen any deployed options out there that address that in the marketplace. I'm sure there have to be some, but I haven't seen any, and certainly none of the mainstream options seem to support permanent storage. There are some really exciting things about this that go beyond just like making sure that your digital art is still there in the future. One of the things that permanent blockchain storage allows is not only storage like of a digital artifact, like an image or video or something like that in a permanent context, but also you can store a permanent execution context. And what exactly does that mean? That means that you can store software, you can store programs. So let's say that your collectible is in the context of a trading card game. Let's just say it's a trading card collectible. It's an NFT trading card. So that's great. You've got the image, you've got the data about the card, the authenticity, all those things are tied up in the NFT. We've got data persistence because we're storing that on blockchain now with PRüF. How about the game? If the game is an online game where these cards can be used, what happens when that game server stops being maintained? Well, one of the things that you can do economically with the blockchain storage solutions that we are integrating is permanent execution context. So that game itself could actually be stored on chain and played without having to spend any kind of tokens or any kind of expense because it's actually just being read off the chain, and reading doesn't cost anything. So that execution context then would exist on chain, so you can play the game in a browser or whatever, or even download it and load it. But the execution context or the game itself, in the case of a game, can also be stored on chain. Now, when you start really thinking about what that means, the execution context or the software itself could be different. It doesn't have to be a game. It could be a lot of different things. It could be a database. Could be a database engine that controls the database. Could be a lot of different things. What you end up with is the capability to create truly self-contained, permanent systems. Now, was that possible before? Sure. It would be possible to do that even just like on Ethereum. It would be possible to do it. The problem is that storing the data is so expensive, and the system is inherently resource intensive. So that becomes extremely inefficient. You could be looking at hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars just to store an image on Ethereum, much less a video. I can't even imagine the expense you could run into with a video on trying to store that on the Ethereum blockchain. So this is truly it's a revolutionary idea. The ability to store not only the data but the execution context on chain, and run it on the client machine rather than running it on running the software actually on the blockchain. That costs gas, that costs tokens, that costs money. But to run it on the client machine, but yet have it still be permanent and persistent and immutable, that opens up a whole lot of doors that just nobody's really looked inside before, and I think there's some really exciting possibilities with that. Definitely stay tuned, because we are going to investigate that space and see what we can do in there as time goes on. For now, we are going to have the permanent blockchain storage. I believe that will be in public testing within a couple of weeks, maybe next week. If not next week, then the next week after that, and then we'll be investigating what can be done with self-contained permanent systems. I think that we're going to see some really exciting things come out of that space. It's not going to happen overnight, and they're going to be experimental at first, but I think that we're going to see some things come out of there with PRuF that are absolutely fantastic and game-changing. Other than that, we have, let's see, what else to announce? Okay, so we have got a little partnership with Creative Tim, who's a rapid interface development or designer, and they provide some excellent tools for interface design, some React templates, things like that really make development easy. So we're working with them to be able to provide those tools to the devs that are going to be building on our platform, building on PRuF. So those will be included in our templates, so that devs have ready-made tools to create their interfaces and easy templating and accelerated development to create good-looking, clean, functional, bug-free interfaces. So we're excited about that. Other than that, what do we got? We got the AMA. Let's see here. Okay, we got some questions for the AMA. Let's see. I haven't even read these yet, so this is going to be completely off the cuff. We got one forwarded from Cryptomania. The community is growing gradually, and so the network is also growing gradually, thanks to some of the early members and early adopters who promote the network in other groups. So how does PRuF intend to lower the barrier to entry at first and to build value for early adopters? Okay, so if I'm understanding what you're saying there, you're just basically saying, we're growing slowly. How are we going to make this work better? How are we going to make it work faster? Well, first of all, let me make clear right now that we're not really focused on growing the community at the moment. I know that may sound odd, but what we're really doing is we're trying to lay a foundation here. We have some really good community members. We're trying to provide programs and activities to keep the community engaged, like the AMA here, the meme contest, things like that. The idea being to kind of let the community sort itself out. So we've got the real hardcore people in there, the real early adopters that are interested in the project. Those people are going to be a very important foundation when we start to promote the community prior to providing liquidity and building out the token value. Those people are going to be the key. When new users come into the community, they're going to be the ones that are helping to answer questions. They're going to be the ones that are leading the way as far as what PRuF is about, and those people are the foundation that we are building for the community. So right now for us, it's more important that we have a strong foundation and we build things out there on the internet. So basically, before we focus on community growth, we're focusing on Googleability. When you Google PRuF, what do you get? When you start to look into, what is written about PRuF, where are we published? Who has commented? Who has said things about the project, and what have they said? These are all the things that we are trying to build a foundation for, so that when we do go deep in promotion and public relations, that those things have lasting value and they don't just create a flash in the pan. So this is a sort of a strategic move. As far as slow growth, that is actually intentional. We're doing a little bit of growth here and a little bit there, but we're not really promoting things really hard. And maybe you've noticed that, but there's a reason for that. We're trying to lay a strong foundation so that when we are ready to build token value, and to invest in that heavily, which we plan to do, that foundation will be there. So it won't just be a flash in the pan. And that is really the idea, because it doesn't really do anybody any good if we can build token value and a lot of excitement, but there's nothing underneath it. So what typically happens with a lot of ICOs and things like that is the price just like drops to the floor for 6 months or more. Right afterwards, and we're trying to avoid that situation with PRuF, so that we can build lasting value and rising value in the project. So that is the plan. That's what we're up to. I hope that wasn't too long of an answer, but thank you for that question, Cryptomania. We have another question here from Hakeem. Hakeem says, data persistence is a major problem in the NFT space. Imagine that. Lots of NFT context is actually stored in the cloud, not on a chain, and might eventually disappear. This is a big problem. How can PRuF solve this problem and make it a thing of the past for users? Well, we have addressed that earlier in this, Hakeem. But obviously, data persistence, absolutely. I would say that is the biggest problem, and actually an existential threat for the whole idea of NFTs. What is an NFT if it doesn't actually store the data, that is trying to represent? Now we're talking about, strictly NFTs in the digital space here, but an NFT that's explicitly a license or a token representing ownership of a physical item, it's doing its job. But an NFT that says, this is this piece of art, well, it's not really that piece of art if that piece of art can just go away and you have to have it stored on a thumb drive somewhere. That's really kind of begs the question of why bother tokenizing in the first place if we're talking about a digital artifact if it's not persistent. So yes, absolutely a huge problem. We are solving this problem. We will have an actual solution rolled out in testing, hopefully within 2 weeks here. So big news there, and thank you for that question, Hakeem. Okay, now we have one from Smart. Have PRuF already find some developers that are willing to use the PRuF platform, or is it that you want developers to find you? What kind of skills are you looking for any developer working to work with PRuF, and what requirements do they have to fulfill to work with PRuF? Okay, I'm assuming here, Smart, that this is a question regarding PRuF as the platform for NFT developers or AC node holders. So the barrier to entry to work with, to use the PRuF platform or the PRuF protocol on any of the platforms where we are deployed is pretty low. It would be recommended to have some web development skills, especially maybe a little bit with React. In most cases, you won't have to do any blockchain programming at all. So you're just basically going to go in the console, set up your NFT issuing authority. After you have your issuing authority, and that's an AC node, and you would configure that to have the characteristics and use the business logic, the payment structures, all the different things that you want that to do, the way that you want that to work. You have that configured using our console, and then from there you can either write your own web interface to issue your NFT assets, or you can continue to use the console to issue those assets. Typically, I would expect that developers would probably use our templates and libraries to go ahead and build out their own brand experience, for their assets to be used in that context. But that's obviously however they feel about that, the degree of customization that they might do with our templates or integrating our libraries into their own custom website. That's going to be up to them. But we expect that they'll probably want to do some brand differentiation there, and provide a customer experience that's tailored to whatever it is that they're doing, whether they're tokenizing physical assets, providing proof of ownership, doing supply chain tracking, or if it's an NFT art or artisan type product. All of those things kind of imply that your web interface is probably going to be a little bit different. You're going to have different emphasis and different functionality deployed. So I expect there will be some web customization. So basically, I think we're talking about web developer, some React experience, or at least learning React. I think that's about it as far as working with PRuF in a constructive way. That's really all that most people are going to need to know. And that's kind of the whole point, actually, of the platform is to make it so that you can do a lot without having to work a lot. We provide a lot of functionality in the core contract infrastructure, so that you can do in a couple of hours what might have taken weeks or months to do if you're writing your own contract code, and then you'd also have to pay thousands of dollars to get it audited. To make sure you didn't have any bugs, and then maybe rewrite it and get it audited again. We're providing a shortcut of hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars, and accomplish that with an AC node and a couple hours of configuration. So we lower the bar to full functionality in NFT projects. Of course, it's already easy. You can set up an NFT on OpenSea. Great, you can issue an NFT. Fantastic. What functionality does that have? It has the functionality that OpenSea wants it to have. That's the functionality that it has. And when OpenSea goes out of business or gets bought and their focus changes, then that functionality might change or might go away, and then you're going to have to create your own functionality. So basically, with PRuF, you have the functionality built into the contract and the contract infrastructure, and then if you want to create a marketplace, write your own marketplace, we'll have templates for that. We have libraries for that. If you want to create whatever kind of user experience or user functionality you want to have on the website, we have tools to facilitate that, make that easy. And the contract side is taken care of, and it's built in and permanent. So that functionality that you define when you set up your issuing authority, when you set up your AC node, that stuff isn't dependent on the website that you build or the PRuF console. None of that is dependent on that. That's done on the contract side, and it's permanent. So that's a big change in the way that NFTs are dealt with. And we're excited to be able to bring that to the wider community and provide that lasting functionality and permanent data to the space. We're excited to share that with developers and making that easy and simple and with a low barrier to entry. Anyway, so thank you for that question, Smart. I hope that answers what you were looking to find out. Appreciate those questions. Stay tuned. We'll have another community update next week, obviously, and should have some new news about the data persistence at that point. It may even be already out. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks for your time, and we'll be in touch.